I feel like I should have like leather shoulder pads with like spikes coming out of them and a gigantic hammer.
Yes.
Why
isn't this happening? Why isn't this happening?
And my name should be like, like Bone Crusher or something like that.
Creativity in progress.
Hello and welcome to Creativity in Progress. And what was that other sound? I have no idea what that was. That's how y'all doing today. My name is Nathan and I am your host, and I have no idea what's going on. The new intro is completely throwing me off. And I am here with
Ethan Murphy, Ethan Benny's friend.
Yes, and
all right, Ethan's friend.
Well, that was a train wreck. But we're leaving it in.
Leave it in.
Perfect.
Leave it in.
Perfect.
I love it.
I love it. I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yes.
Exactly.
So how y'all doing today?
Very good. Very good. How are you doing, Nate?
Well, despite all appearances of what just happened there, I'm doing great. I'm doing very good. We are careening towards Halloween and the end of the year. Oh my God. So it's basically being like, wait, it's October what now?
I know. What is happening?
No, I know that. It's like
time.
Why time?
I don't know how it was. So yeah, I'm sure you guys have always noticed that when you were younger, when you were a kid, it seemed like time took forever to go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
You had to wait 1,000 years for Christmas to get here, wait 1,000 years for a break to get here, wait 1,000 years for the weekend here. But now, when you're an adult, it's like time just refuses to slow down at all. It's faster and faster and faster and faster.
Yeah, it's.
I'm old.
Same though.
Yeah, it's bananas. It's like you turn around and I heard this thing where somebody tried to explain that they scientifically tried to approach that topic, and essentially and a big part of it was essentially, well, a month when you're 3 years old is a significant portion of your life. A month when you're almost 40 is like a little tiny fraction. So the older you get, the more it just time just seems to go faster and faster and faster, and that's why being immortal would suck. So anyway,
yep.
that was the whole. That was all that was.
In conclusion, nobody should be vampires. The end. Thanks for coming.
A round of applause. The students are in their homework. Yes, of course. But actually, that makes a lot of sense. I never thought about that before. Yeah, as you are older, time all kind of seems to eventually collapse on itself. So.
Yeah, it's just bananas. So so before we get to our main topic, how in the hell can you hate Harry Potter? I am sorry, man. I have been holding this in for the last 2 hours. What in the?
I am so glad.
I will just not. I will stay out of this conversation because. Well, we've already talked about how we have differing onions. We have differing opinions on this.
Wait, did you say different onions first?
Yes, differing onions.
All right, making sure I heard that. I mean,
we're all
hungry here. They have layers.
Yeah.
Well, so Ari is right. We have discussed this before, but she also knows where I'm coming from. Because I don't necessarily hate Harry Potter, the books. I definitely don't hate J.K. Rowling, the author. I actually have a lot of respect for her. Anyone that can get, in this day and age, can get a whole bunch of kids that are addicted to video games and movies and every other flashing, shining thing to sit down and read a 800-page tome or wait in line several times to get an 800-page tome is doing a whole bunch of things right. Plus, let's be honest, she's quite a looker. But now, as far as the films go,
that's not necessary.
It's not necessary at all. But she is what she is. I mean, let's not judge a book by its cover.
Okay.
So to speak.
Okay.
We won't judge her. We'll judge you. But it's okay.
I agree
go ahead.
with you, but it's anyway, go ahead.
As I read myself, the thing about the movies is I guess I haven't read the books that much. I read the first half of the first book, and I was okay. It was pretty cool, I guess. It wasn't blown away by it, but I thought it was pretty cool. But the thing was, the culture the world has got so obsessed with Harry Potter, and the movies never really blew me away. I like kind of like the world or the idea of it, but it's very British as far as like the over the top, like the lingo of Britain, and then also like it's kind of posh in that sense. And everyone, Harry's the chosen one. You're a wizard, Harry. But the story is so remedial in the way it's presented in the films. It's like, you're a chosen one because you are. The end. And the movies also don't really, if you haven't read the books, I already noticed that, I talked about this before. If you haven't read the books, it feels when you're watching the movies like you're just lost, like you have no idea what's going on. The Marvel movies, there's all kinds of Marvel movies, but you feel like if you haven't seen the comic books, read the comic books, you can still digest the Marvel movies. Like them or not, you can still digest them. Harry Potter isn't quite as accessible.
Okay.
I disagree with that, and I don't even like the movie. I think they're easy to follow.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say like, oh, good, Ari, you do your argument, and then I'll do mine.
Oh no, I mean, well, I have several things I can argue.
Of course,
but
typical Ari.
It's very typical of me. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. I like I said, I don't even like the movies. I think there's some things about the movies that I like, but overall, I feel they did a poor job at adapting the source material.
Let the record show that she said she doesn't like the movies.
Yeah, that's fine with me. But I do feel like they set out the world, they build the world in such a way where it's very easy to follow along with what's happening. And you get invested in the world, and like I disagree with that point. And I also will say before I punt this over to Nathan, is that the first book, I mean, it started as a kid's series, so it didn't start as something deep necessarily. It was just sort of very it was like a fairy tale. And so going into it, when did you pick up the first book?
It was like after I think it was after the first or second movie had come out. Once the craze had started, once people were like, "Oh, Harry Potter's the greatest thing of all," and I guess that's probably what it was too. There was so much hype already by the time I got to picking up the first book. So of course it's like, wow, this thing has to be the best thing in the world. It's just pages. It's just
so you had like major hype backlash.
Okay.
In addition with it like being, you came into it as an adult instead of a kid, so you're probably expecting it to resonate with you a little bit more.
Sure.
Whereas like I started with it when I was just a kid. And so I wasn't like expecting anything much. So I think that's probably why it, like with me and a lot of my generation, we sort of grew up with it. So, yeah.
Well, and that's fair.
Anyway, yes.
And I'll let Nate go ahead and say, he has to say right after this. I know that I'm in an extreme minority, and that's perfectly fine. Yeah. I'm that guy that doesn't,
To be clear, it's okay. Like, I respect your opinion, and you're totally like, because I have experienced hype backlash with many things, and I totally understand where you're coming from. And you like, I just don't take it as like you have to like this thing because I hate that too. So don't worry about it.
I got you. All right, Nate. Now it's your turn. Go ahead, unleash.
Okay, my turn. You have to like this thing. No, I'm kidding. So well, my thing is, and I can completely understand that. Now I came to, I am still trying to grapple with the fact that like I'm like what 6 months younger than you, Ethan, and yet
but also 6 months prettier.
But I did come to Harry Potter when it was, I think the second book had just come out. The movies were still like 4 or 5 years off. And I, it was one of those things where I think my sister told me, she said, "Nate, you really got to check these books out." And, so I picked up the first one and I was like, okay, I guess like this isn't even young adult. This is a kid's book. And like I was 10 pages in and I was like, oh my God. But I am a bit of an Anglophile. So I do like all the British, like you great Southern piker. I like all those kinds of, terms and phrases and things.
Right.
That's actually from the book Good Omens, not Harry Potter, but still, I just read that one, so it's really good.
Yes.
But
I was like, that was not the accent I was expecting. I was not expecting a Shadwell accent coming from you.
Yes. I'm so glad you called that out. I that warms my heart. Yeah. But
makes blushing. We can see him blushing.
Yeah. But with Harry Potter, like I just got sucked in, and then like I remember, you know, like I didn't wait in line, but I definitely was getting the books the first day they were there. They were read. The first couple after I got into it were read the first week. The last couple, like I think the last book I read the first day. Like I got it. Mm-hmm. I like called off work 2 days in a row. And mind you, I was like 26 when this came out. So like I called off work and read the books 2 days in a row. The movies I like. I personally think they did a good job, but I think my approach to that and why I liked them was because I fully expected them to be hot garbage. Like when I found out that they were making Harry Potter, I was like, how in God's name can you turn this into a film? There is no way. And I thought it was going to end up being something like, what was that one movie with the polar bear, like Golden Compass? Like I know that hadn't come out yet, but like I expected that, you know, and the fact that it came out and it was like, it was such a bizarre feeling to me because I came to the world prior to any of the movies existing. So when the movies came out and for Hagrid to walk on screen and to be like, that's exactly how I pictured Hagrid. Like that, like in almost every case. So like, I think that sold me on the films, and that got me like, okay, yeah, they can do whatever. They made some choices I was a little, you know, little like, okay, but then they made other choices that I was like, that was a good choice, that was a good omission. We really did not need that house elf situation thing that Hermione had going on. Also, I gotta give them okay.
No, I get that. I'll also say that I get what you're from, because I mean, obviously you read the books and you obviously you're invested in the stories that you had read for so many years, or you literally grew up reading them. And from what I understand, the books are better. It's pretty much unanimous agreed. The books are better than the movies.
Oh, yeah.
Which is oftentimes the case.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And I completely understand. I completely get that. So I'm not faulting the books at all. My problem is with the movies, because I definitely still feel like, objectively, the movies, there are times where they just don't make sense. And they kind of aren't trying to go out of the way to make them make sense, because, or to clarify things, because they're saying, you know what? Either you understand this material or you don't. The end. Move on. And there's a Reddit post where a person actually explains some of the things that are all the gaps in the movies that they don't have that are explained in better details in the books. So
I'm interested to know what you find confusing.
Yeah,
well, sometimes part of it is like if you get later into the later movies, there's a part with the whole like Horcrux and all that kind of crap. And it gets into a whole bunch of like, I'm like, what is going on here? Why is this way? Or how was it exactly that Voldemort was trapped? Or how was it that exactly that Harry survived because his mom did what now? Or okay, so Alan Rickman actually was a bad guy, but he actually wasn't a bad guy. He was actually a good guy because he said or did one thing. Well, don't worry though. What's his face? Richard Harris now. The Dumbledore is in fact
Michael Gambon.
Michael Gambon, whatever. It's actually a bad guy. No, he's actually a good guy. Don't worry, he's gay. He's not gay if he's Jude Law though. It's like I can't process the nonsense. J.K. Rowling, you're a beautiful woman. I would gladly tell you to your face you're beautiful, but your stories are a little.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, A, she didn't write the movies. Two.
She did adapt some of them. Yeah.
No, she didn't. She was on site for. Yeah, she didn't write any of them.
She adapted the later ones. What's it called? She wrote the new ones. The ones with the new ones that have
but those
Eddie
are
Redmayne.
Those are completely different. Those
are horrible.
Wait, what? Okay, well, wait. First, I want to say you're conflating. Like you mentioned the gay thing. They never mentioned those in the movies. That was J.K. Rowling Twitter. That wasn't the movies.
Yeah.
Fair.
But I can kind of see where you're coming from, but at the same time, like all of the information is in the films. Because if anything, they severely dumbed down the films compared to what the books had. Like you mentioned, 800-page tome. The 7th book was was, you know, like it had a ton of information. Like the 6th and the 7th book were just massive. And even with them splitting the 7th book into 2 films, they still like pulled out a ton of info and didn't and like just scrapped it. But they, you know, and I would be interested to see that Reddit post, because I have a feeling that a good bit of those plot holes exist in the books themselves, because I have heard that where like there are some things.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
But with the movies,
even the books may have passed them.
Yeah. So, you know, like I think, you know, I think because those movies had a lot of information, it could be easy to miss. But the one thing I will say, the final word I'll say to refute it, is my dad, who doesn't really, but kind of always has had a low form of dementia since he was in his 30s, was able to watch all those movies and understand them and enjoy them. So I'm just going to throw that out there, lay that on the table.
Fair enough. Again, I think what it really is too is I just all the fluff as far as the plot and everything else goes aside. I think it boils down to the fact that I kind of just don't like the kids that are in the movie. Like Harry never struck me as a compelling character, and I understand that he's meant to be almost like an avatar for the readers. He's meant to be kind of more vanilla, so the kids can kind of put their from what I've heard, he's meant to be this more kind of just, I'm the chosen one, therefore I'm going to be just here. I don't have to earn anything. I'm just here, and that's fine. You can agree. Ron Weasley is Ron Weasley. Every time I see him, that I just don't get at all the appeal of him. Hermione is always kind of so opinionated that she doesn't seem engaging at all either. So I guess and their British accents are just so it really boils down to just the movies, the aesthetic,
Jesus
acting.
Christ,
It just drives me up a wall. I just don't like it.
Well, okay, so I'll say this. I think it's doubly difficult for you because you baseline don't like it, and I think that puts a roadblock between you and understanding the material, or like wanting to understand the material.
Yeah.
And that's something that I experience as well. If I go into something, I'm like, I already don't like this, I don't care, then I'm not going to be invested in it. So I think that's the problem, that your opinion is just sort of preventing you from getting all the information, and that's okay. That happens. As for the casting, I agree that it's not ideal. Like it's different from how I envision the characters in my head.
Well, I think the cast. I mean, they're perfectly. I'm sure the cast is fine. Daniel Radcliffe's amazing.
They did a great job. It's just it doesn't gel with me personally. But I don't know, man. I don't know what to tell you about
that's
well, one thing I will throw you this bone. I will throw you this bone, Ethan. I fully agree with you. I have never, and I realize I too am in a minority. I cannot stand Ron. I have never been able to understand Ron. I hate the fact that he and Hermione got together. I wanted Hermione and Harry to get together. I was like, and I was so happy when JK came out on her Twitter, you know, and she basically said, she said, I should have made Hermione and Harry get together. She said she was against it at first, and because she didn't want to go the obvious route. Which I can understand, but oh man, I would have rather nobody got together. Like I would have rather there had been no, you know, but it's teenagers.
I also would have rather nobody got together, but I am of a differing opinion. I prefer Hermione and Ron together instead of Hermione and Harry.
That's fine, and I guess the thing is too that ultimately
he's just such a wuss.
I do see the appeal of the idea to a school that teaches wizards how to do wizarding. It's a whole world of it, and it's a hidden world away from Muggles or regular people that can't do magic.
You like the magicians?
Yes, like the magicians. But the magicians is obviously the magicians has problems too, but it's a better written, structured show. But that's something else altogether.
It's definitely more adult.
It's much more adult, and they don't have the accent. Yes. Part of it is though is that it's just for whatever reason, it's just my own hang-ups. It's just kind of just never really jive or gel with me. And because
go ahead.
Sorry. No, what do you say?
You finish. I'll follow up after.
All I say was because the world overwhelmingly embraced it so much, it's considered such a great, huge thing. Everybody loves it and is trying to shove it down my throat, dressing up like it. They have a whole section of amusement parks dedicated to it. They have Butterbeer and all this other stuff. Because of all that, and because I'm constantly inundated with all that stuff from Harry Potter, it makes my just dislike of the material, it amps it up all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're saying is you're a spiteful person.
Very spiteful. I don't like children. I hate love and peace and happiness. I don't like sunshine or rainbows. But what were you going to say, though, Ari, before I cut you off?
I was just going to ask if you had the same accent problem with other films or TV shows. Is it just usually. Do you just? Huh?
Because I love like, for example, Guy Ritchie, his earlier work like Snatch and Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels and even Rock and Roller. I like that a lot too. I actually oftentimes enjoy Cockney rhyming slang. Downton Abbey, the way they talk is cool. I think for some reason, I don't know what it is. It just those kids, like there's a part where Hermione in the third movie. I actually like Prisoner of Azkaban a lot. Everybody else likes it too. I like that one a lot. But there's a part where Hermione like punches a kid in the face, and Ron says, "Bloody brilliant," or "Crikey, that's brilliant." I mean, that's pretty much along the lines of what he said.
Crikey, that was brilliant.
And it's like, ugh. I remember thinking, if there was a koala bear here right now, I would choke it. I was so upset just hearing those words come out of his mouth. So it's just, for some reason, the combination of the actors' way they speak and the world seeming a bit too big for me to grasp, and me not quite completely being invested, all those things adding up, I just didn't like it that much. But because it was also shoved down my throat by so many, because I'm in the nerd culture. I'm ass deep in the nerd culture. So I'm surrounded by people that love it and want to talk about it all the time, and just as and have all kinds of books. Are you in Ravenclaw? Are you in Gryffindor? What's your house? I don't have a house. I'm in an apartment. So it just drives me up the wall. But I know I'm a sole dissenter, and I completely respect that you guys love it so much as you do. Mm-hmm. You're welcome to do so. I get it. I get it.
Okay, it's just incredibly fascinating to me.
Yeah. It's well, it's like with anything else, it's there's always going to be something that I think that is, accepted by the zeitgeist that you're just like, why? Like, okay, well, maybe let's make this, this is kind of unpopular opinions part 2 episode. I think we should just roll with this.
Right.
I do not like Seinfeld. Never have.
Oh no, me neither.
Yeah.
Oh wow! So
wow.
You guys don't like it,
man. Wow, okay. I was hoping for some pushback. Okay, so who's going to play the one who loves it?
I do like it. I
do
like Seinfeld.
Okay,
I do like Seinfeld, but I'm curious. I wanted to go and give you guys your room, your space, your platforms. Why is it that you guys? I've heard some of your reasons before, Nate, but feel free to elaborate again. And all right, go ahead and share state your piece.
It's not like a virulent dislike or anything. Like I caught some episodes on television many years ago, and I just thought it was okay. I mean, it was just sort of a sitcom that happened, and I think it's probably because I'm not the target demographic necessarily. It was before quote my time unquote. And I don't know, it just didn't resonate with me. And I was like, oh, well, these people are really annoying.
Yeah. So I got you. Fair enough.
For me, it's actually interesting because it's I didn't care for it because I don't like the characters. I don't like any of the characters.
Right.
So I'm like,
that's it. That's what it's for me and Harry Potter too. That's the same thing for me and Harry Potter. I want the characters. Therefore, I like the story.
Well, yeah. So that makes sense. But I think the difference is, and I'm not trying to push back. Like I completely agree with you. I think that's definitely a valid thing. But with Harry Potter, like they didn't make the characters purposely unlikable. Where in Seinfeld they did. Like they specifically were like, these are just assholes, and let's follow these assholes through their lives in New York. And it's like.
Right.
I didn't get that. And then I had the same thing you did where it was super popular when I was in high school. So, and I was, I was a nerd, but I also really liked, like I had a couple of friends who considered themselves like comedy nerds, and I've always kind of been a comedy nerd, and they were like, "How can you not like Seinfeld?" And I'm like, I like his comedy. Like I like it when he gets on stage. Like in fact, the only reason I would ever watch the show was because of those little snippets of him on stage doing his bits.
Mm-hmm.
But the show itself, I just couldn't get into. And I remember my friends like arguing with me constantly about it. And so I had a similar thing you did, which was, so that pushed me further down the path of, no, this sucks. I hate it, so I've never been able to get into it ever since. So it's kind of, so I see that's my, Seinfeld is my Harry Potter.
No, I get that. I completely get that. And bizarrely enough, I mean, even as popular as Seinfeld was, as much as I might like it, I get why YouTube may not enjoy it. Ari, it is very much of the 90s.
Oh,
it's very so if you come into it late, the game's like, it definitely be very unattractive. I get that entirely. And Nate, they are literally assholes. All four of them. They literally go to prison at the end of it. I mean, spoiler alert. They go to prison because they didn't bother to help somebody that was being mugged. Instead, they laughed at them and made fun of them. So it's like, these are genuinely bad people. I guess for me, though, that show, what I liked about it was a very, very smart, clever show as far as the jokes and the style of humor, the idea that it was seemingly about nothing, but all these borderline benign stories somehow converged with a very interesting tapestry. And the characters, as bad as they were, as flawed as they were somewhat relatable. All were somewhat relatable. And the ideas or the premises of each episode was rooted in something that in my daily life or in some capacity I could relate to. For example, there was an episode about how someone at their job, a person was always a close talker, or how someone, if you're going on a date with somebody and she, you think she's okay, but all your friends love her to death. It's like, how do you break up with her? Or the idea of, I would say it's the one called The Bet, where they have to like see how long they can go without taking care of themselves in private. I mean, like I thought these are very interesting premises and concepts, and seeing them play out in such a clever way with people that are very flawed, but also very relatable was engaging for me, even when I was in high school myself. So, like I said, I definitely see where both of y'all are coming from, but at the same time, it was enough to resonate with me and obviously other people too. I get that.
Makes sense. I think the other piece for me too, and you touched on a little bit there, like the relatable piece, but the relatable piece always was like pieces that I didn't like about myself. Like George would like say something and be, and behave in a certain way. And I would be like, yeah, I do that. And I hate myself for it, And so it's like, so why, and so for me, it was like, why do I want to watch a show that reminds me why I'm such a horrible person, And so that was kind of like, but again, I get it why people like it, because for a lot of folks, that's like breaking the tension, like, oh, thank God I'm not the only one, where, my particular flavor of, brain chemistry, just took that as okay, let's amp the self-loathing, so it was just kind of like, I'm tapping out of this one,
Right. It was kind of holding a mirror up to yourself to see just the negative parts, and of course that's not pleasant. I get it.
Yes. I get it. So what I'm saying is I'm really a horrible person on the inside.
No, but you're so pretty. You're so
no, but pretty. Aren't we all though? Aren't we all?
Exactly. I know I am. All right, Ariana. What is your a movie or a show or a book that is deemed great that you just can't get into besides Seinfeld?
I was thinking about it, and I don't think I have one.
Really?
I'm mostly just sort of chill. Like if people are like, you should check this out, I'll be like, okay. And then if I don't want to, then I just won't get around to it. And I'm pretty good at avoiding like having it shoved down my throat, because I just sort of avoid it.
Sure.
That's fair.
So how about the other end? How about the other end of the spectrum? Is there something that you love or like that everyone else seems to hate?
Good question. I don't know. I'd have to I'd have to think about that one. I don't think so.
Okay. That's fine.
I don't think so. Not that I can think of off the top of my head. Do you have something that you love that everybody hates?
Yes, I do have something that I love that everybody else hates, but I also have something that I hate that everybody else loves. I hate's a strong word, but whatever. So I guess I know, Nate, you've seen Spider-Man 1, the original Spider-Man movie.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen it, Ari? The original Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, of course.
So I did not like that movie. Me and my brother, we both did not like that movie. And we saw it separately, and we both felt almost the exact same verbatim way when we left the theater. We both felt bad for Tobey Maguire and the studio because of, oh no, they have a bomb on their hands. And yet the entire world felt the opposite way of us. So as a huge fan of Spider-Man from the comic books, even the TV show in the 90s, I thought that movie was just an insult and it was just bad. And we actually literally wrote up my brother and I wrote up this 10 reasons why Spider-Man 1 is a terrible movie and everything like that. So we were vehemently against that movie. So, but again, we were so far in the minority. Everyone else loves the pieces. I couldn't get behind. Tobey Maguire did a really good job as Peter Parker, sure, but he was never believable even remotely as Spider-Man. He was just seemed too whiny and kept crying, and then I think he had one corny quip in the entire movie, which didn't work for me either. Mary Jane, or played by Kirsten Dunst, she kept jumping between boyfriends and guys she liked, and all of a sudden at the very end, she's like, "Oh, by the way, I love you. I'm in love with you," and she kisses him. It's like, what? Where'd that come from? The Green Goblin, the way Willem Dafoe portrayed him wasn't bad, but it seemed so over the top corny that it didn't quite. It seemed like more of a caricature than a character, and his costume was just kind of lackluster. It's like basically a biker helmet that didn't show any of his facial. It was so. I had a whole bunch of reasons why I didn't like that movie, but again, I know that I'm in a minority, and I appreciate that people did like it because it paved the way for more superhero movies. So,
yeah. I didn't think it was a great movie. I thought it was like a good movie. I think if I watched it again now, I might feel similarly to you, given all the great movies we've had since then.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, I guess I didn't go into it expecting much.
Yeah.
I found it enjoyable.
Okay.
That's basically how I felt about it.
Well, you did bring up a kind of brush up against another good point, which is back in 2001 when it came out. It was obviously at a time when there were basically no other real superhero movies like that out. So of course it stood out as far as being something unique or different. And I can see why people will be more inclined to like it because of the time it came out. So.
Well, and that was kind of my feeling of it. I liked it. And I think probably at the time I probably liked it a lot more than I'm making it out to seem now. It definitely wasn't one where I was like, oh my God, it's the best thing ever. But I do remember liking it a lot. I also was willing to forgive it a lot of things because I understood, and I'm not saying that you didn't, but I was willing to forgive choices that they made because I understood that they were breaking into a whole new genre, and they knew that they had to be careful. So like a perfect example, you brought up the Green Goblin's mask. That didn't bother me because I knew that people would never, number one, I knew the technology couldn't handle it. And number two, I knew that people wouldn't really like a full-on transformation into a goblin character. So I was willing.
Well, sure.
I was willing
to. Well, have you seen the other way that the original mask they made?
No, I didn't see that.
If when you get a chance, go ahead, while we're talking, go ahead and look up online the other version of the Green Goblin's mask, the original version of the Green Goblin's mask, which actually looked a lot more closer to the original version from the comic books. I'm sorry, but go on. You're saying.
Yeah, well, but with that, there were things that I was willing to forgive. That now I agree. If I watched it now, I would probably be like, no, I did. And I am with you with the piece with one thing I didn't like. I figured it was an artistic choice, but I did not care for the fact that they didn't make him they didn't make Spider-Man quippy like with a lot of his jokes.
Right.
Because that's one of the things that I absolutely love about Spider-Man is his jokes, and the fact, I've seen that picture before. I see what you mean. It definitely looks more like the comic book. That being said, I still understand why they went the other route, because they were trying to appeal to a mainstream audience, and I think they feared that wouldn't appeal to the mainstream. So
right, and that's fair. I get that. So that's definitely more the way he looks in the movie. It's a lot more. It's a lot easier to digest. Kind of a simple green biker outfit, essentially with a biker helmet. It's very palatable. I get that.
To be honest with you, like this mask I'm seeing, I really do not like it. I much prefer the helmet with the way they went with the character in the film. It makes far more sense to me.
Mm-hmm. And I bet you actually, you know what, you're probably in the majority too, Ari. I bet you most people would actually like that one. And that's fine. I mean, it does make sense. It's a lot easier just to, it's the other one is weird. It looks very weird, but I guess I kind of like weird. And it looks closer to how it looked in comic books and the cartoon show, and that's why I love so much. So.
And that's the thing. Like it does look like it. Like that looks like it's straight out of the comic book design, and I do like it on that level. But it's funny that this reminded me of another thing, and there was a guy that I was friends with, and this was actually I realize I'm shifting movies, but it's what I do. We digress.
But we digress.
Yeah, it was the X-Men movie. And it was the first X-Men movie, and it was the end of the movie, and we see the movie, and I was on a double date with my girlfriend at the time, and the guy that was the other dude at the other double date, he goes out and he's like, that was so great, and we're talking about it, and he's like, yeah, and I can't wait until the next movie when Wolverine and Rogue get together, and I'm like, what? And he had it in his head because apparently in like one comic at some point he had read where like Wolverine and Rogue kind of like they didn't get together, but they like entertained it. So he thought that they were going to do that. And I'm like, no. And it was, and he, no. And he was one of those, like, he was one of those folks that could not understand why the movies weren't being made just like the comic books. And it was one of those things where it's like I would argue with him for a while, and then I'd be like, "No, you're just never gonna get this," and I just like walked away.
Because, right? Yeah, right.
They're never gonna make that choice because it's way too icky,
Yeah.
Right. Well, because the world they set up with the comics, and I definitely, obviously we're describing here is nerd rage all around, nerd rage over Harry Potter, nerd rage over Spider-Man that I'm expressing. So I apologize for that. To everyone listening, and to Ari and her.
No, and I don't want to make it seem like I'm equating you with those folks. Like I get that you, that's a different thing. Nothing to apologize.
Oh no, but I definitely see where you're coming from. But I think part of what it is too is that, like you guys mentioned, is that these studios were trying to find a way to hit or enter the mainstream in an accessible manner. So they got to make a lot of choices. For example, in X-Men 1 in particular, all of them are just wearing black, patent leather black outfits, which is something that was dabbled with a little bit in the comic books with Ultimate X-Men, but not really that much. And even then, they were still a little more stylized. Yeah. In the movies, they're just basically just patent leather black outfits. That's it. Just basic, simple things. And their powers are kind of scaled down. They're kind of it's almost meant to be that if you are a person who's never heard of these properties or ideas or comic books in general, you can still watch these movies as being some kind of fun sci-fi or action to the movie. And because I'm more of I'm on the other end of the spectrum as far as being really into the weird or into the nerdy stuff, when these movies scale these things down so much, it is kind of just, it just doesn't quite hit the sweet spot for me.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't think it's necessarily scaling down as it is scaling realistic, because these are films with real people, and they need to not look like gimmicky or hokey. I mean, they need to be realistic in a way that will resonate with film people who are going to see moviegoers, and not comic book readers. Because you can do so much with the artistic medium, and I would know, but it is a completely different medium than film. So And like, I mean, they still kept some really cool like Mystique was
yes,
like
Mystique was Mystique, they actually went over the top of Mystique because in the comic book she was like a white cloud. Yeah. They actually went over the top of her, which is great.
I like the choices that they made. I mean, sometimes they make, I feel, the wrong choices with the adaptation, but I think there needs to be some level of adaptation happening or scaling of some kind. Perhaps not down, but like, to the side, maybe diagonally,
Right. No, that makes sense. Like a lateral move. But I guess that's why the MCU, the Marvel movies in general, hit my sweet spot so well. It's because they were made and produced by the fans, and they said, "F it, we'll go the nth degree." I mean, the idea of a Thor movie working at all. Thor is a ridiculous character, yet somehow it works on screen. They found a way to make it work. Captain America is such a corny character, but somehow they made him even more relatable. And even with the Russo brothers, who I love to death, in Winter Soldier, they did kind of go more realistically, as you're saying, or they made a lateral move become more digestible. But at the same time, it's that much more fantastic. I mean, the things they're doing, people can't do that in real life. Any of that stuff. There's a part where he literally he jumps out of he's in a skyscraper more or less, and he jumps out the elevator, and he slams down on the concrete below on his shield, gets up, runs out, and takes on basically a Harrier jet on a motorcycle with his shield and destroys it. And but it still all feels somehow believable and realistic. So it's being able to do the impossible in a realistic way.
Yeah, I agree, but I think there's also an element of the technology scaling in such a way that we can do that now and make it look realistic. Whereas like with the first X-Men film and even the first Spider-Man film, like the technology is so dated now that you can't really achieve as much. But now we have we can Thor Ragnarok, you can't, there's no possible way you could have done that in 2000 or 2001.
Right.
But now that we can make it look realistic, or not realistic, but hyper real in a way that doesn't that doesn't really break our immersion, but we can still, it's achievable.
Yes.
And to flip my previous story on its head and put me in the wrong, it was a couple of years. Oh, well, more than that. It was probably about 10 years later. And it was when it was still the MCU was kicking. Like it was, I think Captain America had come out, and there was another, or Iron Man definitely had come out, obviously. And there was one or two others, but they hadn't revealed where they were going yet. And I was hanging out with my buddy Derby, and he's sitting there drinking his beer, drunk out of his mind, being all conspiratorial about the movies and being and they did this thing, and they're doing Gauntlet, man. They're doing Infinity Gauntlet. I swear to God. And I'm sitting there going, no, they're not. They aren't going anywhere near that, because that is 70s banana comic crap. There is no way they're touching that, because that is way too nerdy for the mainstream. I'm telling you, man, it's going to be the Gauntlet. And I had to buy him a 6-pack, which I actually haven't done yet. So I need to buy him a 6-pack because he called it. He called it. He straight up called it a good 5 years before
10 years ago.
Yeah. It was bananas.
Years. Yeah.
So, but you're right. Yeah, of course. Yeah, he said it before. There is that kind of prophecy stuff, and he gets drunk all the time. But
he's mostly wrong. But
drunk, and then
he's mostly wrong when it comes to comic book movies. But then he was right.
He was right.
I love you, Derby. If you hear this, I love you.
I almost do. I like you. But it's to think about it is it does seem like you're right, Nate. It does seem banana times like crazy to have a whole Infinity Gauntlet, because if you're bringing in the Infinity Gauntlet, you have to also bring in the idea of intergalactic warfare, aliens, Thanos, and it's just so out there. But the way that they obviously Kevin Feige and all the directors and everyone else, the powers that be at MCU, they were brilliant enough to know that they had to dole it out slowly, because the mainstream or the general public can't handle too much at once. It had to be a slow process, a gradual process, and it had to be earned. Even when they got to Doctor Strange, they knew they couldn't put Doctor Strange in Phase 1 because he's such an out there character. They had to pretty much have so much credibility built up with the world that when they brought in a character, they had the ability to literally portal around and do all kinds of crazy stuff with a goatee on his face. People were all in favor.
That's the crazy thing, the goatee. That's the real.
That's the craziest part, yeah. The goatee and the accent, the American accent, are the craziest parts. So,
I don't know why they couldn't let Benedict Cumberbatch just keep his natural accent. Why not?
I wish. I do wish they had.
I wish they had too.
Because it's not like. It would have been just let him be British. Just let him.
And his accent bleeds through anyway. Like half the time, I'll be honest.
Exactly.
I didn't even realize until it was like halfway through the movie. I was like, oh wait, he's trying to do an American accent? Really? Okay.
All right, he's trying. He's not just sick. He's on a cold.
And you all know, like, I am a huge fan of Fishy Wit Wapty Bum. I am a big fan of his. But
Fishy Wit Wapty Bum. That name is getting further and further.
But I love him to death. That accent was like, really? Wow. Okay.
It's weird. Yeah. No, I got you. But I completely agree with what you guys are saying, that, or especially Ari, is that you have to be careful with these types of things. You have to be careful anytime you're adapting something or making something. Going back to Harry Potter, you guys, even I can respect and appreciate the craft and effort and the deft hand they use at adapting those books onto the big screen. I mean, they do look beautiful. They actually do create a realistic, yet somehow supernatural world. I mean, I don't know how they did it, but it's amazing. So it takes effort and skill.
Mm-hmm.
I give you that.
Yeah. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Ain't that just the way?
Yep.
Perfect.
Yes, it is.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I think
there was something not to deviate too much. I know you're going to go off.
Is that one last thing? Is that a one last thing?
But no, it's kind of one last thing. Mainly it's one last thing because I wanted to get your guys' opinion on something else.
Oh, sure.
So I'm not a fan of a show is kind of similar to Seinfeld, I guess, in that it has main characters that aren't meant to be necessarily super duper likable, but are very relatable and very fun. Is Community. I know Ari's seen Community.
I was wondering if you're going to say It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Well, that's the most based off, but it's been based off Seinfeld.
Yeah, that's the other band of total assholes.
Yes,
but
they embrace it.
Somehow I like it more. I don't know. I don't understand myself. Anyway, go ahead.
No, that's a good point too. We can come back to Sunny in just one second, because Sunny is definitely very much like Seinfeld. But all I also say was that Community is a show where it has people that aren't necessarily meant to be super likable. They're very, very, very flawed, but they're aware of their flaws. And the jokes and everything in there are very fast-paced and very witty, and it's an amazing show. I looked at pieces, but that was a show that didn't quite get nearly as big as his competitor, or as his counterpart, I guess you could call it, The Big Bang Theory, which has millions and millions and millions of views and millions of dollars, 9 seasons plus whatever seasons it has a spin-off show, all kinds of that kind of stuff. And I'm not a huge fan of that show at all. I don't really. I feel like that show, The Big Bang Theory, is making fun of geeks or nerds or nerd culture more so than embracing it. But it's a show that sort of people like. So.
Big Bang is laughing at nerds. Community is laughing with nerds.
Exactly.
And
one appeals to not nerds, and the other appeals to nerds, and one group is larger than the other. So that would be why.
That's true too. Yeah.
And I think too, like with Big Bang, it's starting I have a feeling that if Big Bang had dropped this year, I don't think it would have succeeded.
You don't?
I don't. I think if it had been delayed, because it's like 8th, 9th, or didn't it just end? Or I don't even know what's going on.
I think it's 9th or 10th.
It's ended now? Is it still
starting
going?
Its final. Yeah, starting its final season. Its final season is this season. It's maybe 11 or 12. I can't remember.
So, but that's kind of my point, is that if it had dropped now, I don't think it would have been as successful, because I think it would have been called out almost immediately as being negative towards nerds, where a decade ago, it was still kind of okay to be like, we were playing Dungeons and Dragons, laugh track, that's
literally,
where a lot has changed in a decade. And so I don't think it would have succeeded. And I think the reason why Community now conversely, I think if Community had dropped right now, it would have exploded. It would have just
I think
gone.
You're right. Yeah,
bah.
I think you're right.
Because I do think the things have shifted, and it has become, and also we are now more in a world where you like Big Bang Theory I would say it's probably going to be one of the last network sitcom successes. Like, and I mean that in that we live in a world of Netflix, Apple TV, Disney Plus, Amazon, Hulu. We live in this world now where you can go out and find the exact content you want to watch. And we're shifting into this ecosystem where you don't have cable anymore. Like, more and more people don't have cable. And I don't think that Big Bang Theory is something like that is ever going to happen again. I could be wrong. I'm probably going to be wrong. There might be one or two more, but I honestly think that it's.
I think you're right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because I mean, man, Netflix really changed the game.
Yeah, it did.
For everything.
Yeah,
it really did. Yeah, because even not just with the content Netflix itself has, but the idea that other streaming sources could arise as well and do what they want to do. Like, for example, Nate's favorite show, Marvelous Mrs. Maisel on Amazon Prime, that's something that wouldn't have existed before Netflix. Before Netflix kind of paved the way for those kind of original content shows and a different avenue to go down. So.
And that's the thing. Like, the entertainment world has completely changed, and
Yes.
So anyway, that's my little soapbox. Hopping back off.
All right, before we go,
I like your soapbox. What?
you were saying about the show Always Sunny.
Oh yeah, no. I just, while we were talking about Seinfeld, I was sort of drawing comparisons in my mind. Like, oh yeah, I don't like Seinfeld, but I do like this other show about assholes who are just the worst people. And I was wondering why I liked it better. I was wondering why the humor resonated with me more, and I don't have an answer for you, but there you go.
I have a couple, but Nate has some.
Well, I was just going to say, I think probably the most obvious one is the fact that Seinfeld is so dated in the 90s, and it's hard to relate because it's, like, hell, it's hard for me to relate to it, and I lived through the 90s. Admittedly, I didn't own my own apartment and all that in New York City, but at the same time, like, it just
those relatable, attainable goals.
Exactly.
Yeah, a penthouse apartment in New York.
Yeah, but I think that's probably a huge one right there. Is just the fact that they're just
that's fair.
Yeah.
Well, one thing too, like Nate said, it's dated, but also I think with the one big thing in Seinfeld is that Seinfeld and his whole squad, they kind of get away with being assholes. If not, they profit from it until the very, very, very end. And It's Always Sunny, they make a point to show you that these guys are horrible people, and they continually get their comeuppance. In every episode, horrible things happen to them because they're horrible people.
True.
Like that's part of the joke. So it's kind of satisfying and almost cathartic in the idea of seeing the natural order of things take place. And it's fun to see jerks, because originally they wanted to call the show, there was Rob McElhenney and Glenn Howerton wanted to call the show Jerks. And the network said that's too much.
That would be accurate.
That'd be accurate. But the idea is too, is you're seeing bad people be bad with each other. And that's where the comedy comes, essentially. It's a lot of fun to watch, two idiots fight each other as opposed to watching one idiot profit off another, essentially. So I think that's one thing I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you. Man, it's been a while. It's been a minute since I watched Always Sunny. So
yes, and that's still on there too. That's like episode season 14 or 15, I think, which is crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy. But I mean, it's a good show.
So no, it is a good show. It is a good show. Yes, man, gracious. What happened to time, Nate? Going back to what you said, time. It's just
time.
We're looping back.
Yep,
we're time traveling back to the beginning of the episode.
Yes, but before we I was reminded though that there was a discussion we almost had pre-show that we were like, oh, let's save it for the show. The Joker. Okay, so apparently people on this line,
all right,
have seen it. So
okay, I think we need like an entire episode dedicated to this film. I agree.
Okay,
because I'll tell you I saw it this weekend, so like on Saturday I saw it with Susan and Dale. and I still don't really know what to think about it. I listened to this. It was a very well-made film, and Joaquin Phoenix's performance was fantastic.
Yes.
That being said, I'm still like, I don't know what to think, so I'm still gonna think about it.
Maybe I kind of love that. I kind of love that. That's your response. Your immediate response is, I don't know what to think. I'm trying to process and digest this. I love that. And I'm actually going to see it tonight with our friend, a friend of the show, Eric Prochnow, who was on.
Oh, good.
Nice.
I'm going to see with him in a few hours. So I will have.
Say hi.
Yeah, tell him we said hi.
I would definitely tell him you both said hi. Hopefully, Nate's time is very, very limited. If there was a way for Nate to see it too before next week's show, we could have a discussion. But I don't know.
I think. Well,
It is. It's very dark and dark.
Dark and dark.
Well, the thing is, this movie, I know this movie falls into what I call my squishy zone, which is where it probably won't disturb me the way other movies would. So I'm definitely willing to check it out. It's just trying to find the time to get my tail to the movie theater to see it. I do potentially have so much. I'll see what I can do. And if I can't, then I'll figure something out. But yeah, I definitely do want to, because I'm hearing a lot of things, and I'm like, I don't know what to think.
Yes.
Same, bro.
But that's the beauty of it. I love that Ari's response is, because I've heard Ari's response from other people too, where they left the theater and they're like, I have no idea what direction up is or where my face lives. Mm-hmm. So I love that it's one of those movies where it just hits you that way. And I'm really curious, almost as a social experiment, I'm curious to see it.
I have a lot of conflicting feelings.
Okay.
Some are good and some are bad. And that's why I can't really, I don't know how to put them into words yet. So, give me another week and I'll get to you.
Yes.
Okay. I think it's a good idea. We'll do a spoiler verse for it. So yeah, I think we can.
Yeah. Sounds good.
If possible, we'll do it. If I need to see it, we'll do a spoiler verse.
Yeah, we'll definitely do that. Cause I'm interested because I have my pre-thoughts. I have pre-thoughts, and I'm interested to see whether my post-thoughts match my pre-thoughts. So
right. Well, Ari, if I can ask this, if I may, did you, before you went into the theater, did you already have some preconceived notions? Had you heard a whole bunch of things? Did you know what to expect, or were you expecting anything, or did you go in there as a blank slate, pretty much?
It was a pretty much blank slate. I didn't even watch the trailer.
Oh, really? Okay.
I'd heard things. Basically, I'd heard both sides of the spectrum. Okay. I heard that it was like a great movie, and then I also heard that it's like this really pretentious, awful movie. Mm-hmm. I can see. Let's just say that I can see where both sides are coming from. But I'm erring on the side of, it was a good film with things in it I didn't like. Okay. That makes sense.
Yes, it does.
That's just my personal opinion, and I don't know yet, man. I still gotta think about it.
I love it. I also love how poetic that ending is. That this episode today started off with me coming in hot over Harry Potter, and you guys more or less defending Harry Potter, and then we had diverging opinions on different things, and then for us to end our conversation talking about a movie where Ari is pretty much in and of herself is split on it. Yeah. It seems too perfect, too fitting. I love it.
Come in with a bang, out with a fizzle.
That's what she said.
Oh, I told you that in confidence.
He logs for right in that one.
Oh my Lord. Oh geez. I was trying to think of something clever to say to that, but I just don't have it.
You already did. You already did.
Another fizzle. Anyway. Okay.
Proud father of two. Oh hey! I told you that in confidence too.
I'm sorry. I'll stop.
Yeah. Okay. Well, before we fizzle anymore all over ourselves, let's go ahead and wrap this puppy up. So, Ethan, do you have anything you would like to plug for today's episode.
Yes, I do. It won't. I should have put it last week, but I'll go ahead and do it anyways. Hopefully, people in the LA area went to LA Comic-Con, which would have been this past weekend, even though it's happening this upcoming weekend. James, friend of the show, James P, and I will be there. We have a table again at LA Comic-Con. It's where I met friend of the show, John Machado, my boss. But I'm telling you guys about this convention, and this episode won't air until after it comes out. So hopefully I saw you guys, some people there, some friends of the show there, or fans of the show. If you are by any chance either friend or foe of the show, feel free or felt free to have stopped by, and hopefully I wasn't a jerk to you when you came to the table. It's weird talking in the future about the past events. It's
time, man.
Time. You get a Doctor Who headache. But
I'll do a drop in. I'll do a drop in on tomorrow's episode when I'll do a drop in, so that way people will know to go see you and say hi and you know, get signatures and buy stuff from you and maybe take pictures and touch you inappropriately.
Yes, please, all the above, please.
Hey, I gotta throw him some kind of bone. So
that's what she said.
It depends on the kind of bone.
Hey, talking about pork.
My Lord, let's check the scoreboard, people. Ari 10. Nathan and Ethan, nothing. Okay, it says how we're going today.
Right. So we have two scoreboards up now. We have one for how many times I put my foot in my mouth, which is definitely at like 13 this episode. And then we have Ari, as far as Ari just going Ari on things. The streets.
Oh, that's awesome. So speaking of Ari, do you have anything you would like to plug this week?
No. I mean, other than go see Joker and see what you think about Joker, yes. I suppose. Okay. Yeah. That's all I got.
Don't listen to reviewers. Form your own opinions, people. And then I think
that's something that I agree with quite a bit. So please form your own opinion about everything in the world.
Yes, I think actually that's a good little theme of this episode. Is that, you know, like, don't just because somebody said you should or shouldn't like something doesn't mean that you need to listen to them. You know?
Hey, we got there. We got there to the theme of the episode.
We found it.
That's the episode. This episode is Follow Your Heart.
Be yourself.
Oh my God.
Be yourself. Be yourself.
Be yourself. Oh my God. There are just so many thoughts running through my head right now. Okay.
Nick, I know you have some plugs, my friend.
Oh yes. Oh God. I feel I'm unprepared. I'm plugless.
Oh no.
I'm trying to think. Yeah, geez, I completely forgot something. Oh, well, I guess I'll just, generally plug. If you haven't already, check out the other shows on our network, Hoodies and Hair Ties, yes. The Lunch Break. Also, The Hardest Thing You'll Ever Do, which is the health podcast I do. We just had a guest, Emily Decker. She was on. The first part of her interview launched last night, and the next part of her interview is next week. And it's all about body positivity and just not being crappy on yourself and diet culture just crap. And it's actually a really good episode because we sit there and bash diet culture for about an hour.
I approve.
I approve. And congrats on the new show, my friend.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So go check those out. That would be, that would be awesome. So.
Thanks.
Okay.
And I do in honor of Nate, I do have honor of Nick. I do have one more thing.
Okay.
It's more about rumor news. Everyone knows that there is the upcoming Batman film starring Robert Pattinson, directed by Matt Reeves, and they're doing a casting call for Catwoman in this film. I think it's going to have Catwoman and Riddler and some other villains or whatnot. The substantiated rumors from inside sources is that they're trying to have a woman of color play Catwoman, which has been done in the past. Eartha Kitt, and even in the year one comic book, she was black in there too. So there is precedent for
Halle Berry.
Yes. Halle Berry, if you want to count that movie, which I don't.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I don't really, but also I do because it's important.
Yeah.
Yes, fair, very fair. It's Halle Berry. But I heard that I actually went on a date with a young lady who is in some of these circles who works in the entertainment industry. And she was telling me how the rumors that have come out, or the from her sources, what they're saying is that they were looking at Tessa Thompson, who we all love to pieces, Gugu Mbatha-Raw, Lupita Nyong'o. And I know these are all heavy hitters. These aren't like amateurs, all heavy hitters. And then my personal favorite, which is the last one she saved, where she goes, "Oh yeah," and someone named Logan Browning. And I literally, here's the thing: you have to understand. Okay. You have to.
I understand. Trust me, I understand.
Yes, yeah, I know you do. Yeah, you and I were talking at her together several times in the dark. But the thing about it is, what you have to understand is, I was on a date. So when she said that name, and I pretty much shoved her to the side to run to go look at a picture of Logan Browning, it didn't exactly play as well as it should have. But if Logan Browning becomes Catwoman, it will be the most like spot on casting, most inspired casting since like, I don't know, Sylvester Stallone as Rambo. It's perfect.
Yes, I could. The second you said the second you said that they were casting Catwoman and they were looking at a woman of color, I said, "Yep, Logan Browning. He's going to bring up Logan Browning."
Of course I am, but they did it first. I didn't even do it. They did it first.
She just led you to that. Wow, that's
yes.
Well, see, for that's your, see, for me it was Olivia Munn as Psylocke. Like that was, when they cast her as Psylocke, I was like, yeah, like despite the fact that movie ended up turning to be not great.
It was pretty lackluster, but her casting was spot on.
Yeah, like was spot on. Actually. Oh yeah, like I saw that and I was like, that's amazing. And that part of the movie, it's like, I wish they had given her more, costume
or give her less. I
would like to point out, I said I wish, I made the joke of I wish they had given her more costume, and you went the other way.
We have fun. We have fun here. We have fun.
Ari, I am so sorry.
Just like a Seinfeld.
Anyway,
comment. I want you to stew in your shame.
Oh God!
Yes.
That's what she said.
But yeah. So that's kind of that. So I feel you, man. But yeah. Anyway, there's really no way to like transition to that, to like, it's
I apologize.
It's like there's really no switch track. It's just you got to lift the whole damn thing up and move it over here and just put it down. Which is what I'm doing.
As the train does a backflip as it derails off down the cliff.
Derails off. Yeah. And now I have a bad back. Okay. So
that's what she said. That's what she said.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and land this. Do y'all have anything you wanted to mention before I land this puppy?
No. Please bring her in for landing, sir.
Yes, all right, cool. I can almost hear the desperation. Please end it.
Okay.
It needs to go away.
Why would it end?
You can find Ari on Twitter at Ornerine. You can find Ethan at echelongnovels.com. You can find Nate at nathanbeattyvo.com. You can find more information on the podcast at echelongnovels.com or www.thecipnetwork.com. You can call us at 434-481-1787 and leave us a voice message and we will play it on the show. You can email the podcast directly at Nate at Ha. I got pretty darn far.
You got amazingly far. By the way, it's been a while. It's been a while since that happened. I'm still proud of you.
Anyway, I'm so proud of you.
You can email the podcast directly at Nate. Crap. I have too many ats, and that's it.
It's over. It's gone.
Yes, Nate at thecipnetwork.com. That is the email you should use. You can check us out on YouTube. You can check us out on Twitch. And finally, if you want to support the podcast directly, you could go to thecipnetwork.com/support, or you can go to our Patreon at www.patreon.com/creativity in progress podcast. Our intro and outro music is the song Amigos by Platinum Butterfly, copyright 2015, licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution 3.0. You can find more of their stuff at dig.ccmixter.org, featuring Clarence Simpson and Susan. As always, thank you so much for listening. Y'all have a wonderful day.
There's Thomas.
Yay, I stopped it before it played other music.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm proud of you. I love that.
That
I got
was
to see you
beautiful.
dancing. Yeah, the dancing's great.